this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Hey, I'm Lindsay. Hidradenitis suppurativa, HS, caused bumps and abscesses that made me feel embarrassed. I talked to my dermatologist and started a treatment that works for me, Cosentyx. I found relief.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Don't use if allergic to Cosentyx. Get checked for TB before starting. Increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like TB or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if IBD symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
You're stronger than HS. Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
If you're a QuickBooks customer looking to grow your business without the growing pains, you need the Intuit ERP. Upgrade to Intuit Enterprise Suite in a matter of hours. It's the AI-native ERP from the makers of QuickBooks. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
With the Venmo debit card, a taco in one hand and ordering a ride in the other means you're stacking your rewards. Nice. Get up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on your favorite brands when you pay with your Venmo debit card. From takeout to ride shares, entertainment, and more. Pick a bundle with your go-tos and start earning cash back at those brands. Do more stash, get more cash. Venmo Stash bundle terms and exclusions apply. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
For many men, mental health challenges aren't recognized until they've already taken a toll. Work pressure, financial stress, changing relationships, and traditional expectations around masculinity can quietly wear men down, often without clear warning signs. In Season 3 of The Visibility Gap, Dr. Guy Winch and his guests explore how these pressures show up, how to spot them earlier, and how men can access meaningful support. Listen to the new season of The Visibility Gap, a podcast presented by Cigna Healthcare.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore. The bolder the lie, I do believe, and this is an old principle, the bolder the lie, I think that there is a higher probability people will believe you. If you're willing to really stick your neck out and tell a whopper of a lie or try to deceive people on a grand scale, like you've got some kind of miracle potion that will change their life, they'll believe you. You tell little fibs and little white lies, you'll get caught. But it seems like people that go for the grand slam, they succeed for a while. In the case that we're going to be, or cases that we'll be discussing today, it's a cold case, both of them. And it all centers around deception. It centers around the deception of one individual who had a real hunger, apparently, for sexual deviance. And he coupled that with having people think he was a cop. Today, we're going to talk about the now solved Lover's Lane murders in Houston, Texas, from 1990. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. So I get a call, Dave. Thought I'll repeat this on the air so you can hear me say it twice. Not that you need me to, but Dave, I was contacted by David Middleman from Othram, and he said, "Please, can you and Dave please cover this case?" I was like, "Yeah, man. I mean, I'll cover just about any kind of case that you have because I love people want to know why. I'm always, kind of pushing Othram cases. I guess some people would say shilling, but I don't get a dime out of it. The reason is that we have scientific commonality. I think that both myself and the Middlemans and Dave as well, all we want is the truth. We're not here seeking justice or anything like that to somebody else's department. We're looking for scientific truth here. And so that commonality, and when he approached me about this, David, I was more than happy to take this on because I got to be honest with you, Brother Dave, I didn't really know how kind of melded into the conscience of the folks of Houston this case or cases were. Apparently, this is something that had been on the radar for a long, long time. I think that it was kind of a dark cloud, as well it should be. It's horrible cases. And
think about it. An unsolved Lover's Lane murder of two young people that are, 21 and 22 years old.
Yeah.
And that's going to stick in your craw for many a year, which it did. And, the solving of this case is really intricate. We're going to end up doing more than one episode on this. I'm glad the Middlemans reached out to you on this because we've tried to do a number of cases just because so many of you that listen to true crime, you want to be involved. You're not just viewing from the outside. A lot of you want to be involved, just don't know how. What do I do? What is that step? Well, here it is. We've many times have told you how an Othram case gets built and how many times they just need enough money to get it started. It's a $7,500 fee. We're not talking about a lot of money here if you're getting it from a bunch of different people.
Yeah, if you're crowdsourcing it, you're
right. And so if you've got $20 and you want to participate, maybe there's a crime in your area that is unsolved.
Yes.
And you followed it and you're like, well, get some of your friends, collect that way, and maybe you can get something going. But with this one, you've got a case out of 1990. One of the most powerful parts of this story is how the loved ones talked about this young couple. You're talking about Cheryl Henry. She's 22. Andy Atkins. His first name's Garland, but he doesn't go by that. He goes by Andy. Right. Andy Atkinson is 21. They are beautiful young people who they're in the infatuation stage of dating where, oh my gosh, it's, you could be at the campfire in blazing saddles, eating beans with this person and smile. Okay. That's how infatuated they are with one another. Yeah. They meet up at a hot spot in West Houston. And my first thought was the name of the place that they went to. I'm like, boy, this sounds like one of Joe's old haunts. IU Mamas.
IU Mamas. Bayou Mamas. Yeah.
Bayou Mamas nightclub in West Houston.
Right.
They go out there. And later that night, the young couple, they go to a remote area, beautiful area out by Addicks Reservoir. And that's all. That's where this story ends and begins at the same time, because we don't know what happened after they got there, but we know that when neither one made it back home, when neither one showed up for work the next day, when in particular with Cheryl Henry's family, when she didn't come home, this is not Cheryl. She doesn't do this. So they're on the phone with cops. Joe, it wasn't till 5 o'clock the next afternoon. A security officer on patrol in that area noticed that a car had been parked in the cul-de-sac with nothing else. I mean, you got a remote area, but there's paved roads and stuff, but there's not a lot of buildings. And this car's been sitting out there all day. It's 5:10 in the afternoon when he finds, okay, I got to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And as he approaches, he sees there's a woman in the car, calls out to her. She doesn't respond. He knows there's more to this story immediately and calls police. And the call to 911 was unresponsive female. That was what they arrived on the scene for. But Joseph Scott Morgan, what the law enforcement individuals found, and I'm really curious for you to be able to break this down for us, because I don't know what happens when you come to a scene like this where you have something out of the worst horror movie you can ever imagine playing out in real life. Do the police call you right away and say, hey, man, we got a problem and we need you here now?
Yeah.
Is that it? Because you've always called yourself not a first responder, but a last responder.
Yeah. They would have called the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office. They have a forensic center there. And I used to know the guy there that was the chief investigator. What was his last name? I think his last name was actually Ringo, Ringo. Yeah, he was a good guy. I talked to him several times about cases. I had one case when I was still in New Orleans. I remember talking to him, and I had another case when I was in Atlanta.
Wow.
It's weird how your life crosses. Your lives can cross. And I think in both cases, I wanted them to assist me with making notifications of next of kin.
Oh, wow.
Which is what we would do. We would reach out to fellow medical examiners and coroners and say, because we knew that they had training in it, can you please go to this address for us? And we would do it for other medical examiners too. We'd go out, the investigators would make notifications of local families where deaths had occurred, because you want somebody there. Anyway, that's kind of a peripheral connection there. But back to your earlier question, yeah, they would call us. Here's kind of the weird thing about this case, and I've actually had this happen a couple of times. Have I told you about the kind of the adrenaline dump that I used to get when I'd get a call that would come in, and it would spike if it was a homicide, and I could feel it within me. You're sitting at the office, and so you get a call. It's a call out, and they might tell you over the radio, or they would actually call us on the phone sometime. Headquarters would, and said, yeah, we've got and they would give us a code most of the time. We've got a code. In Atlanta, it was a 48. In New Orleans, it was a 29. And they might say it appears to be a homicide. And so you feel this thing come through your body. It's like electricity almost. It's really weird. So you get this, and you're trying to make sure that you've got everything you need before you walk out of the office, because you don't know what you're going to walk into, and you're grabbing stuff. They would have done this, and they would have gotten there. And here's the thing about it. When they got there, Dave, they thought they had one body, and the body was in a car, and it was a woman. This is the part that has happened to me before. And you talk about that adrenaline spike. I remember having an adrenaline spike on top of an adrenaline spike at a scene, because they'll say, we've got another one over here.
Oh, wow.
And that's what turned out with this case. And you can feel it. It kind of builds, at the age that I'm at now. I look back at it and I think about that. I think about, did that do anything to my body, my brain and my heart, or whatever the case might be. And then you're trying to do detailed work out there, and you're trying to assess it, because, if they find an additional body, you know what you're always thinking? There's going to be another one found. Oh, wow. And so you begin to look at the scene, which, by the way, is an outdoor scene. Obviously, we're talking about a car.
In a remote area where a lover's lane. And by the way, August outside Houston, Texas.
Oh boy. Yeah, exactly. And you're thinking, okay, have we just stumbled into a dumping ground? Because trust me, all the cops in this area, they know this is a lover's lane. All right. There's no telling how many times they've rolled up and run people off. Okay. And that's just, unless something really bad is happening, the cops will most of the time just grin and go on about their business, because that's what young people do. You're going out to, what was it that you say on Happy Days? We're going out to watch the submarine races, right? And so, but but you show up, and particularly like you said, in a rural area, you don't know how to secure the scene, because you don't know what the totality of the scene is. Because just think about it. Once you show up and you have a body in a car, and then there's another body that's found, you're thinking, well, how far out do I expand this thing? What's going to be my perimeter? Where am I going to set the boundaries on this thing? It's almost like you look at it and say, okay, I need to go out at least +2 from here, to set the boundary. The old adage about casting a wide net and catching a lot of fish, you want to set it as reasonably far out as you possibly can. But Dave, in this case, they would have seen her, this poor young woman, contained within this car. And she has just absolutely been brutalized. But then I think it's like 150 yards away or something like that, underneath some boards, they found this young man, Dave.
Tied to a tree.
Yeah. And he's had his throat cut multiple times. As a matter of fact, one report is his throat was cut so deep, he was almost decapitated.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Sink into affordable luxury. Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa, inside and out. With stain-resistant slip covers and a cloud-like frame duvet, everything goes right in the wash. Plus, the modular design lets you change the look of your space anytime. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your home. Shop up to 60% off site-wide, with sofas starting at just $699 and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
It's tax season, and by now, I know we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's an important one you need to hear. $16 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud. Here's another one. 1 in 4 honest, hardworking, tax-paying Americans has been a victim of identity theft. But it's not all grim news. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second for your personal information and alerts you to threats you could easily miss on your own. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's US-based restoration specialist will fix it, backed by another good number, the $1 Million Protection Package. In fact, restoration is guaranteed or your money back. Don't face identity theft and financial losses alone. There's strength in numbers with LifeLock Identity Theft Protection for tax season and beyond. Visit lifelock.com/iHeart and save up to 40% your first year. That's 40% off at lifelock.com/iHeart. Terms apply.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, I've already kind of, showed my cards at this point, but, we're talking about sharp force injury cases here. We're talking about cases involving a knife. And to this day, they never have said what type of knife this is. All right. We just know sharp force injuries. And I know that they have this information, by the way. I know it was a long time in getting this thing solved. They did a bang up job on it. Okay. Because they collected everything that they possibly could at that moment in time in the 1990s and processed it with the technology they had at their disposal. But here's the problem with a case like this. You're thinking, first off, do you have these, when you're looking at this case, always keep this in mind. This is something we're going to talk about at CrimeCon this year, by the way. I hope everybody joins us there. We're going to talk about how important identification is. And here's kind of a reveal for you guys relative to what I'm going to talk about at CrimeCon. I'll go ahead and say it plainly. Cause of death is fine. Manner of death comes after that. But, the most important element to a death investigation for me is always identification. And when you show up at a scene, it's not like the clouds are going to part and right in that moment, there's going to be a golden glow that's going to come out and you're going to know that this female in the car is, in fact, this young woman. You know that the interior of the car is probably saturated with blood, and then you find this other body, and you don't necessarily know that that other body is the person that's missing. What you do know is that you have two bodies. Are they both connected? Well, logic would dictate that more than likely, He's only 150 yards away. You've got this ghastly scene here, and you've got another ghastly scene over here. But the idea of trying to put both of these people in the car together, is that possible? And that's probably, in my mind, at least from an investigative perspective, that's one of the things I'd be trying to work out, Dave. Where, because with a case, with the sequencing of death, you always have a beginning and an end, okay? It doesn't matter if it's cancer or it's a guy in a ski mask chasing you down with an axe. You're going to have a beginning and an end to that fatal moment in time. Where did all of this start? Did it actually start in the car, outside of the car, or did it start out in the woods and the car became secondary at that point in time? Kind of an interesting thing, isn't it? Because, we've talked about this before. We've talked about primary, secondary, and tertiary scenes, right? And so this gets in, when you said it off the top, it's like you had this insight into this about how complex this is, Dave.
Mm-hmm. It's very involved in that when I looked at this at the beginning part and I was reading what the families had said about the couple and how they were young and in love and how wonderful these young people were. They're not children. They're in their early 20s. And that's at that age where you're developing your adulthood person, the person you're going to be. And they were just really well thought of, and the destruction of those lives. I was reading over the crime scene and how it was described by police at the very beginning. And a couple of words struck me on this, Joe. But it was in particular that Cheryl and Andy were murdered in an extremely violent manner. Mm-hmm. Now, this is on the police report, an extremely violent manner. And when it says something that direct, that it means they were both killed in a similar way, but not necessarily together. And Joe, I got to know, we have Cheryl in the car, have Andy 150 yards away tied to a tree with boards. And the report says that Cheryl was killed first. And I'm wondering, because all I could picture was, here's this young couple in the throes of infatuation, beginning stages of love. And here's the guy taken 150 yards away to watch what they do, or what I say they, because I can't imagine one person doing this, but there's only one person that we know of right this minute.
Yep.
But Joe, how do you break that down at the crime scene? How do you determine you've got two victims and okay.
I wish I did know. I wish I had the answer to this, because the cops are clearly saying this. This isn't some speculative thing that they've thrown out there. They're saying that she died first. And there's also one statement. Did you see the same statement where they said they think he may have been made to watch?
Yes. Yeah, that's what got my attention, because they said that he had to have seen and heard everything that happened to her, and that it was staged in that manner so that he could. I mean, unless, and you think about the dynamics of this, and let's just kind of suss all this out just for a quick second. What are the possible scenarios here? We're thinking about this. Could he have been restrained in one area and have seen this occur as he is restrained in that specific area where he was eventually found deceased? Oh, I see what you're going.
And then it was perpetrated in front of him where she was assaulted, and we do know that this was a sexual attack upon her, where she is assaulted and then killed in front of him, and they don't give her specific cause of death. I can only imagine that it is probably sharp force injury. That's my thought, at least, and maybe bludgeoning. I don't know. Maybe
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things they did say, Joe, was that victims were tortured.
Yeah.
But they also showed signs of prolonged torture. The victim showed signs of restraint, showed signs of blunt force trauma. Both victims' throats had been slashed. And as you mentioned, Cheryl had been sexually assaulted, and that the brutality suggests a sadistic offender. That's different than just a guy that gets into a rage out of control.
Yeah.
And beats the heck out of some, this is something that goes to the level of taking you to the edge of death and bringing you back. You've told me about these before.
Yeah, I have. And it's one of the most horrific things. A serial perpetrator, actually, well, I won't spend a lot of time on that, but actually this was one of his practices, a case that I worked, or cases that I worked involved in this individual. And here's something else that I know that you can fashion a restraint out of just about anything, but David, it says to me that he showed up prepared with restraints in order, because can you imagine? It's one thing if you have one person that you're trying to do harm to, and you have this fantasy worked out in your mind. Oh, and by the way, I've got to create a restraint here. Okay, I've got to find some way to tie them up. All right, but now you're talking about two, and one is a grown young male who could potentially beat you to death if you press the right buttons with him, particularly considering that this is the woman that he's, has an eye for. You might have a wild man on your hands. So this individual has to show up prepared, I think. And so that goes to your point about level of thought, the kind of sadistic nature that this, kind of recalls in your brain. I'm really interested, though, in the dynamics of how this went down, because I can't escape this idea that they're saying that he may have been made to see all of this unfold before him. And I'm just trying to think about, what are the dynamics of that? What kind of, only thing I could think of is, did you have multiple blood trails that were leading to and from where he was? Was there, and when I say blood trail, had they been initially attacked and then made to both walk out into the woods, and you've got identifying blood that trails all the way there from both subjects? Okay. I don't know if that's plausible. He's restrained out there. She's sexually assaulted, tortured, sexually assaulted, and eventually killed. He kills him while he's in a restrained state. And again, this is not Morgan saying this. This is a report we're hearing. He's almost decapitated. And then he would pick her up and bring her back to the car, or did he get into the back seat of this vehicle with her, and while this young man was restrained in the front seat? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It's, the calculus on this thing is quite interesting, and the blood evidence, I think, is going to tell. Okay, so if there was no bloody deposition from her leading away from the car, and you only maybe found his, that simplifies things a little bit. And surrounding his body where he's found, was there any blood deposition from her that may have been deposited there? And also, here's something else that'll kind of bake your brain a little bit. Did either of the two victims have blood from either one on them? Like, were they literally inoculated with the blood from the other person? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, I thought about that, like, for instance, in the one who shall not be named in Idaho, with the knife early on with those four victims. I had this thought early on. I remember back in 2022 when that occurred, and I was thinking about the transfer of evidence from everybody upstairs. Did you have blood that was sourced from either of the two victims upstairs down on the two subjects, down on the individuals, on their bodies, where you got this transfer off the knife? So this is something that would come into play here as well. It gets very, very complex. You think about all of the physical evidence that would have been contained within the car. And this is going to be everything from, because people are not just going to merely sit back and allow themselves to be tortured over a period of time without movement.
Kind of makes you wonder what kind of person could control that situation, Joe.
I know.
What kind of person could show up on Lover's Lane, dark, quiet, nobody else is out there, there's one car, and what kind of person, what type of profession could possibly pull up on this individual and, I don't know, maybe drop a blue light and say, gotcha.
Yeah.
And put them under control?
Exactly. And that's what I was thinking. We know that this case, they do have a suspect in this case. And Dave, I'll go ahead and reveal it right now. But we know that this suspect, according to the investigators, does apparently have a history of having a car. And let me see if you remember these. Do you remember the Chevy Caprices that were shaped like shoe boxes? They were four doors. As cops drove them, they either drove Crown Vics, which are the Ford, or they drove the Chevy Caprice, all right, which is a four-door as well. Well, this individual had a Chevy Caprice that the image that I saw had red lights on the grill and also had the old bubblegum plug-in light that goes on the dash.
Oh,
and if you don't know, if you're a civilian, you don't know, if that's legit or not.
No.
And if somebody pulls you over and they've got lights flashing outside the car. And Dave, you really reminded me of something. This is what a great producer I have in Dave. Dave reminded me of 5 cases. The original Lover's Lane case, or kind of became the original. That you've had a lot of these things now. If you have the original Lover's Lane case, and that's the Texarkana Moonlight murders, you had 5 murders there. That was on a secluded area. People would know about it to a certain degree. Dave, you had included the Zodiac killings. I remember the 2 that had taken place where the young couple were up in the car. You had one guy, I think he survived. The young woman did not. The Colonial Parkway murders, which they've just made huge headway on. And congratulations, Mr. Thomas, on that, by the way. And also Son of Sam. And you had mentioned that's not a rural area, that's actually very urban. But again, walking up on couples because they're completely taken unaware. And then the Atlanta Lover's Lane murders as well. So, there's a number of these things where, and I hate to dehumanize this, but you're, to allude to this, but it's fish in a barrel because you're completely distracted in this environment, and somebody could in fact come by and take control of you. So as you can see, Lover's Lane attacks are not something that's new under the sun. But I can tell you this, as of today, I'm happy to report that we've got some good news coming out of this case or cases in Houston.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Kids, pets, life, your sofa sees it all. But with a washable sofa, stains don't stand a chance. All of our sofa collections come with fully machine washable covers and cushions, making cleanup effortless. Liquid and stain-resistant fabrics provide extra protection against everyday messes. Plus, with modular designs, you can rearrange your sofa however you like. Perfect for growing families and changing spaces. Starting at just $699, it's time to upgrade to a stress-free, mess-proof sofa. Visit washablesofas.com today and save. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
When your schedule sounds like this.
Are you kidding me?
An oil change is the last thing you have time for. So drive into Take 5 and let our techs change your oil, check your tires, top off your fluids, and have you back on the road pit stop fast. All while you stay in your car. No putting your entire schedule on hold, no upsells, no problem. So you can get back to your to-do list. Or not. Find your nearest shop at take5.com. Take 5, the stay in your car 10-minute oil change.
Been a long time coming, Dave. 1990. All these years, these families have sat and waited. It makes the news cycle every now and then, these two horrific homicides. But as of this past week, that's why I reached out to you, is we've got some good news to report, if you can draw anything good out of this. Well, but yeah, I think for the families, it's good, certainly.
Think about it, Joe. Back, what were you doing in August of 1990? And, I think back on that, and I think of the families and what they've suffered through since that time with no solution, and I think of the work being done at Othram, what the Middlemans have been able to set up, because you've got law enforcement that never gave up on this case. You've got detectives on the ground, investigators, an entire department devoted year after year of doing whatever they can with the evidence they have, of making sure that they keep it in working order, the case, so that as the science grew, there would be a chance to try to run it again. And Joe, this is why I started off at the very beginning of this thing. We're going to probably do multiple stories on this, because we do have a suspect, and he was arrested, and his name is Floyd William Parrott. He's 64 years old. He was arrested in Lincoln, Nebraska, but Joe, he hasn't been living there. He's only been in Lincoln, Nebraska for the last couple of years. He's remained in the Houston area up until a couple of years ago.
These many years. Yeah.
And by the way, he was in court. They arrested him in the last few days. He has already had a court appearance, and he is fighting extradition. It's just a matter of paperwork and argument, but he will end up back in Houston. He will face these charges, but he is going to fight extradition. He's asked for an attorney, just to give you a heads up. But Joe, how did they zero in on this one person, and give me the background on him that you know of? Because you hit me with something a little while ago, and I went, it really fits. This, more than anything else, that makes the case. I could understand how this evilness could take place, how he pulled it off.
Okay, so we got to go back to 1996, Dave. I think it was. I think that's the year.
It is.
And this suspect has actually been hooked up on a sexual assault charge before. This is something this is not, as they say, unfamiliar ground for him. And from my perspective, is if an individual will sexually assault someone, the leap going into this piece of sadism, and I'm not saying Satanism, I'm saying sadism, which means deriving joy from inflicting pain upon others. That's not a very far leap, because it's almost like it's this graduated thing that takes place. But Dave, from that case, they were able to get DNA sample from him in that particular case. And so when you have this connectivity between this case in 96 and you have the Lover's Lane cases, all the way back from 90, which was in fact a sexual assault, you've got, I'm expecting to hear that we've got seminal deposit with this guy in both of these cases. You have tiebacks. So what do we have developing here, kids? Everybody say it together. A pattern. We have a pattern developing.
Wow.
And this is one of the reasons, I think, Brother Dave had mentioned that we're going to have to do more than one episode about this case, because I think this guy's cooling his heels up in Lincoln right now, and all they're waiting on is the governor of Texas to sign this extradition order, and they've got an agreement with Nebraska. This is nothing new under the sun. They do this all the time. They will have him back in Houston, in Harris County, like in a matter of days, I would imagine, very quickly. Now, I don't know. They are going to charge him with these cases. That's why this is ramped up so much, because, our friends at Othram were able to underpin this entire investigation with these scientific truths that they discovered relative to this that point back to him. And this is a unique case, Dave, because not only do we have an intersection of the CODIS system relative to a prior sexual assault case, we have intersection with familial DNA connectivity too. And I know people think that happens a lot, but many times with these Othram cases, many of them are things that you never got a hit on CODIS. We've got a hit on CODIS with this guy in addition to this. My thinking, though, Dave, is are there other ones out there? I think that any reasonable person would want to ask that question. Why would you go to the trouble of outfitting yourself with a police car? And it's an unmarked police car. It's merely a white plain wrapper car. Is unmarked. So if you're tooling down the road with this thing, this guy's really bold. You remember early on when I opened this up and I said, hey, you know what? It's generally the people that deceive in the biggest ways that don't get caught for the longest period of time. If you're willing to go out and actually say that you're a cop or pretend that you're a cop, you talk about sticking your neck out, because you know what? You're running the risk of being found out, first off, because you're hiding in plain sight. If a cop pulls you over,
oh, buddy,
how are you going to explain this away? Why is it that did this guy carry badges with him? Because we've seen that happen before. Credentials, did he have credentials with him? And could he validate? Could he talk the talk? Regarding, you look at somebody like a serial killer like Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper loved hanging out with cops. And he couldn't be on the force because he was so big. It's like he's a giant. He's like 6'9" or something like this. But he loved hanging out with cops. He knew how cops spoke. Did this guy hang out with cops? Had he ever tried to become a cop? You see that happen a lot with these serial perpetrators. There's a thread of that runs through, not a lot of them, but there's a thread that runs through many of these cases. They want to be in an asymmetrical relationship, and that's what most sexual assault cases are, Dave. There is a distinct asymmetry, because you've got an individual that can overpower, that can brutalize, and can take what they want, including lives in this case.
Now, I'm thinking of how he was able to how the accused or the alleged murderer, the guy who's been arrested and charged, how he was able to gain control of the situation. And, you've got a young couple that's doing their thing, and all of a sudden they see a blue light, or any kind of a light back in 1990 that indicates you have police there. It's dark, nobody's around, you don't expect to be interrupted, and now you're interrupted and you got blue lights. You're not going to be looking at ID and badges. You're going to be seeing probably a gun, probably a nightstick, probably a large flashlight, Yeah. And usually it's the flashlight that bangs on the window. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, get your clothes on. And it's you got to realize, as you mentioned a minute ago, you are in a very bad situation in terms of defense. You cannot defend your situation physically or any other way. You're off guard. You're addressing somebody you believe is probably an authority figure, probably a cop. We're on our way, officer. And so he's already got you. And that's why I'm wondering, did he have handcuffs? We know rope was used. We know that he was able to, that these, the alleged killer tortured. And that's what really gets me, because there's going to be more information that comes out of this.
It will be.
And you mentioned to me so many times how one case leads to another. You don't start off here and back down. This is, you grow to this point. So
yeah, you don't run at Talladega until you've run on the dirt tracks. Right. And I got to tell you, the way I look at this is that, right out of the gate, this individual is going to have a history of probably sexual sadism, more than likely. Was this his big splash, or had he done it before? You need to ask that question. I'm sure that the authorities they're looking to connect him in some way. But again, guys, this brings us back to what we've said time and time again on this program. And that is, you never know. It could be your nickel that changes things. And that's why we believe in DNAsolves.com. You have to visit our friends at Othram, check them out, see what they're doing. And if you visit DNAsolves.com, go there and look and see if there is a case that piques your interest, something that is geographically familiar to you. Maybe it's your hometown. Maybe it's where you live right now. I don't know. Or maybe it's something about the case. You know, I read over some of these cases sometimes, and I never say that I believe in ghosts because I've been around dead bodies a long time. I've never had one manifest itself to me, but I am haunted by things. And there are some things that you read that are in fact haunting, because I can look back and I can think about what was that person potentially doing at the moment they died in that lonely space that they were found in. There was no hope that they would ever be identified. Okay. Well, now you have an opportunity to make a difference in that way. All you have to do is check out DNAsolves.com. Go there, see if there's anything that interests you. These folks at Othram are not asking for $1 bazillion, just a couple of bucks you can push their way toward a case that you want to help out with. You never know. That nickel that you put in the box might help solve crime, or might reunite a family with a long since deceased loved one. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
It's tax season, and by now, we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's an important one you need to hear. $16 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud. But it's not all grim news. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second and alerts you to threats you could easily miss on your own. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/iHeart. Terms apply.
Your first sip should do more than simply start the day. Elevate your scoop with Vital Protein's Collagen Peptides Advanced. Featuring collagen plus hyaluronic acid and vitamin C, it helps support healthy hair, skin, nails, bones, and joints, adding extra wellness support to your daily routine. So your upgraded routine supports you right back. Vital Proteins. Stay vital. Visit vitalproteins.com to get started. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, starting at just $699. Plus, Anabay sofas are pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and feature changeable slip covers and modular pieces. Get up to 60% off site-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Visit washablesofas.com to get yours now. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Here's the truth. You could literally be adored by everyone and then come home and still get completely ignored by your own cat. It's classic cat behavior. But new Sheba Premium Puree is a lickable treat that changes all that. They're protein-rich, made with bone broth, and have the smooth, creamy texture cats go crazy for, especially when it's hand-fed. Yeah, it's more than a treat. It's a fast pass to favorite human status. So feed your cat Sheba and go from totally ignored to truly adored in just 12 days, guaranteed, or your money back. Learn more at Sheba.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.